Hello, you are watching This is Cambodia. Coming up in today's program in local news. Cambodian King Prabaromanit Norodom Sihamoni and Queen Mother Moninit Sihanouk left the country Monday morning for China for medical checkup. They will be returned home before the opening session of the National Assembly for the 5th legislature. The United Nations is welcome to be an observer of the investigation into the election irregularities. The decision was made by the Cambodian People's Party and the opposition Cambodian National Rescue Party on Friday. In other news, 2 Vietnamese men were found in jungle after living in want for about 40 years. The men moved to the jungles as they escaped from Vietnam-American War 40 years ago. Hello, I am Tana. It's Monday, August the 12th. We begin with local news. Cambodian King Norodom Sihamoni and the Queen Mother left the country this morning to China for medical checkups. The King and the Queen Mother will stay there for at least 10 days and will also meet with China's top leaders. They will return home before the start of the plenary session of the National Assembly for the 5th legislature.
Cambodian King Prabaromanit Norodom Sihamoni and Queen Mother Moninit Sihanouk left Phnom Penh on Monday morning for China. Cambodian King Prabaromanit Norodom Sihamoni and Queen Mother Moninit Sihanouk left Phnom Penh on Monday morning for China. The King and the Queen Mother went there for regular medical checkups. National Assembly President Samdat Mahapanyi Chakray Heng Samrin, Prime Minister Samdat Techo Hun Sen, the royal family members and the government officials were present to see off the Cambodian King and the Queen Mother. The King and the Queen Mother will spend between 10 days and 2 weeks in China. In Beijing, their Majesties will also meet with Chinese leaders. The King and Queen Mother will return home before the National Assembly's plenary session of the 5th legislature. This is according to the members of the royal court. The King and Queen Mother left the country as political situation in Cambodia remains tense following the elections. Last week, the King called on both political parties to resolve political disputes peacefully. King Sihamoni urged the two parties to come together and discuss ways to find the best solution for the sake of the country. The King also urged the public to stay calm and to continue their work as usual.
A joint committee for investigating election irregularities could finally be taking its next step. The ruling party, the Cambodian People's Party, and the opposition Cambodian National Rescue Party have finally agreed to have the United Nations as an observer on the committee. The decision was made on Friday in a meeting between the two parties at the National Assembly.
The opposition party had insisted on having the United Nations as investigator on the committee. However, the party finally took a step back and agreed to have the UN as observers. Not only the United Nations, but also local and international organizations are allowed to act as observers for the investigation. The joint committee could then continue its process to resolve election irregularities. The parties will soon meet again to arrange the working scope for the committee. The decision was made 2 days after Cambodian King Prabaromanit Norodom Sihamoni called on the two parties to solve their differences peacefully. The committee was consulted earlier this month when the CNOP insisted that the UN play a role as investigator in the committee. However, the National Election Committee and CPP only allowed the UN to act as an observer.
The United States has called for a peaceful process to fix irregularities of the election in Cambodia. The U.S. Ambassador to Cambodia, William E. Todd, made the comment Friday last week during his meeting with Deputy Prime Minister Sok An, Minister of the Councils of Ministers. The ambassador appealed to the two opposing political parties to use peaceful means to find a solution to their political disputes. On Monday, the National Election Committee announced the preliminary result of the election. The result shows that the ruling Cambodian People's Party received over 3.2 million votes, while the opposition obtained over 2.9 million votes. The election candidates could file any complaints with the National Election Committee against the election result. The official result is expected to be announced later next month. The Khmer Tribunal has been unable to pay its national staff from drivers to judges since June, but now the court may have partly solved the problem with the help from the government of New Zealand. On Friday, New Zealand pledged over $160,000 to the national staff of the court.
The New Zealand government on Friday pledged over $160,000 for the tribunal's national staff. The pledge was made during a visit of a group of New Zealand delegates to Cambodia to help the court continue its work. It was reported earlier this month that the national staff of the court, from drivers to judges, hadn't received their salary for June and July. This is not the first time for New Zealand officials have visited Cambodia and pledged funds for the court. Late last year, the country's Prime Minister John Key visited the court and pledged about $160,000. Since 2006, New Zealand has contributed around $1 million to the court. The main sources of funds are Japan, Australia, the United States, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, and Cambodia itself.
Drug trafficking has been an issue of concern in Cambodia in recent years. However, the authorities in the country have been trying to deal with the issue. According to a government official, during the past 7 months, over 790 people have been sent to the court on charges of drug trafficking. The perpetrators also included foreign nationals from Vietnam, India, and China. Government officials said between January and July, authorities investigated almost 390 cases of drug trafficking. Meanwhile, authorities say around 10 kilograms of heroin and 10 kilograms of powder methamphetamine and hundreds of thousands of tablets. The government said that currently most drug addicts are aged between 15 and 35. The government said it is committed to fighting drug trafficking through awareness-raising campaigns and strict enforcement of the law. That's all in part 1. When we come back, we will bring you more lighting news from the region and around the world. Stay tuned.
Turtuh ព័ត៌មាន CNC នឹងផ្សព្វផ្សាយព័ត៌មានរបស់លោកអ្នកតាមរយៈកម្មវិធីរបាយការណ៍របស់ខ្ញុំសូមលោកអ្នកថតព័ត៌មានដែលបានកើតឡើងគ្រប់ពេលវេលានិងធ្វើជាសាក្សីសម្រាប់អ្វីគ្រប់យ៉ាងដែលបានកើតឡើងមិនថានៅទីណាក៏ដោយប្រសិនបើលោកអ្នកមានកាមេរ៉ាឬក៏ smartphone ព័ត៌មានសំខាន់នោះសូមលោកអ្នកចូលទៅកាន់គេហទំព័រ www.cnc.com.kh នឹងចូលទៅកាន់ link my report ហើយ upload ព័ត៌មានជារូបភាពឬក៏វីដេអូរបស់លោកអ្នកខ្ញុំឈ្មោះ rap នេះជារបាយការណ៍របស់ខ្ញុំបន្ទាប់មកតាមដានព័ត៌មានរបស់លោកអ្នកតាមកញ្ចក់ទូរទស្សន៍ CNC នៅព័ត៌មានដែលលោកអ្នកបានផ្ដល់ឲ្យប្រហែលជាលោកអ្នកមានព័ត៌មានសំខាន់មានរូបភាពដែលយើងចង់មើលមានព័ត៌មានដែលយើងចង់ដឹងនិងចង់ទស្សនាសូមចូលទៅកាន់ www.cnc.com.kh ដើម្បីបញ្ជូនរូបភាពមកកាន់ពួកយើងក្នុងកម្មវិធីរបាយការណ៍របស់ខ្ញុំប្រាប់ពីព័ត៌មានរបស់លោកអ្នកដើម្បីចែករំលែកដល់ពិភពលោកទាំងអស់គ្នា
កម្មវិធីព័ត៌មាននេះឧបត្ថម្ភដោយ
ស្រាបៀរកម្ពុជាស្រាបៀរជាតិមោទនភាពជាតិ
Welcome back. Coming up into this part of the program, we begin with a story in Vietnam. A father and a son were found in jungle of Vietnam last week by a group of villagers. The two people escaped from war and moved to a tree house in the remote jungle for several decades. After living alone for 40 years, they are now slowly reintegrating into society.
According to local media reports, Ho Van Lang was 2 years old when a mine exploded, killing his mother and brothers. In fear, his father Ho Van Tang, seen here in the hammock, allegedly fled with Lang to a remote jungle. That was during the Vietnam War 40 years ago. The two men had apparently survived without contact with the outside world. They were found living in this treehouse and know few words of the local dialect. Wearing loincloths made out of tree bark, they ate wild rice and foraged for fruit and vegetables. Reports said villagers raised the alarm after spotting two jungle men. Tang and Lang are now having medical checkups, the first stage of being slowly reintegrated into society.
Mexico's president is soon to present a major reform plan for energy giant Pemex. The reform sets the stage for a major debate over the state monopoly's future. The president wants to open the company up to private investors in bid to pump billions of dollars into Mexican economy and save the company from corruption.
These are complicated times for state-owned Mexican oil giant Pemex. Financing problems mean the world's fifth largest exporter of oil, founded in 1938, has seen its production dwindle from 3.5 to 2.6 million barrels a day in the last 9 years. Three-quarters of Mexico's oil reserves are in deep water fields, and experts say $100 billion worth of investment is needed every year to tap into those resources.
No puede enfrentar ese nivel de inversión.
Pemex can't make that kind of investment. It already has investment issues with its current level of production of 2.6 million barrels. The company is struggling to produce 2.6 million barrels and maintain that amount.
2.6 millones se tienen ya problemas de inversión.
Pemex's financial woes have become the focus of one of the most sensitive reforms being pushed by President Enrique Peña Nieto. His party, the Institutional Revolutionary Party, believes this is the only solution, but to do it would require amending the constitution. Otherwise, it says Mexico would have to find the money from elsewhere.
There are two solutions. Either implement major reforms, as other economies have done, to combine public and private capital in order to reach the necessary amount of investment needed. The second option is that Mexicans decide how much of the national budget, up to 1/3, will be thrown away by investing in the oil sector.
The president says he wants to open up Pemex to private investors whilst maintaining the public character of the company. But the leftist opposition, ideologically wedded to nationalised industry, says he wants to privatise the company completely, and they're pushing to block the reform by appealing to the Mexican people.
Entonces, ¿por qué no vamos a esa figura constitucional?
Why not use this constitutional provision and hold a referendum whose results will determine the scope of the reform, which would require us to have a serious debate before the people.
Pemex has been a symbol of national sovereignty ever since it was nationalised in 1938, and as such, reform of the company is largely taboo. But with Peña Nieto's reforms looming large, discussion is inevitable.
An ancient sculpture was discovered in a remote jungle in Guatemala. The sculpture shows a holy ruler of a mysterious city that stood in the area about 1,000 years ago.
The dense jungle of Guatemala. This area was once the heartland of the Maya, an ancient civilization that controlled much of Central America. Now, more than 1,000 years after their empire collapsed, archaeologists have made a stunning discovery. This 8-meter-long frieze. The sculpture shows a divine governor who may have ruled over Holmul, a mysterious city that once stood here. The sculpture sits beside a 1,500-year-old pyramid, but experts haven't said exactly how old the artwork is. Archaeologist Ana Lucia Arroraye says the frieze offers key insights into Mayan history, which is littered with gaps.
For a change, this gives us a lot of information about the gods and the divine rulers.
Archaeologists say the sculpture is sitting atop a larger structure, and ongoing excavations could uncover even more secrets. The Maya were among the great civilizations of Mesoamerica, dominating the region for 2,000 years.
A Frenchman is so much in love with butterflies Every summer for about 2 decades, he goes to places to chase butterflies. This year, he braves to chase them in a very dangerous place of Taliban militants in Pakistan.
In the mountains of Pakistan, this Frenchman is on a mission. Armed with a net, he braves the perils of Taliban militants to chase his obsession, butterflies.
A great example of what you can find here. Magnificent. I'll let it go, of course.
For nearly 2 decades, Jerome has spent his summers scouring the remote landscapes of the country's north to find rare species.
In Pakistan, they haven't been hunted a lot, so you always hope to find a new one, which is obviously the holy grail for a collector, to find something new. If you hunt in France, every species has been recorded for a century. There are no new butterflies anymore.
This time he's climbed up to 2,400 meters to look for one particular butterfly, colored black with red spots.
It's a butterfly that is found in India, but which until now hasn't been spotted in Pakistan, which makes the operation all that more exciting.
But the bad weather doesn't help, and the butterfly proves evasive. He does manage, however, to attract the attention of curious local policemen. A group of foreign mountaineers were recently killed, and the Pakistani security forces are on high alert in the region.
When a place is, I wouldn't say dangerous, but needs some security, the police and volunteers come with us. So I often go hunting with 1 or 2 policemen as escorts.
Despite the risks involved, for Jerome it's all worth it, and he's determined to keep coming back on his quest to capture the beauty of butterflies.
And finally, still in Pakistan, keeping moustache has become a favorite for men. No matter curled up, bushy, or slicked down, they are proud to wear them, and some even dare to sacrifice their life to wear their moustache.
You can wear it bushy, groomed, or trimmed thin. The moustache in Pakistan is a matter of pride and culture, and you can't just let it grow wild. Men go to the barbers to give their facial hair the flourish they desire.
Absolutely, absolutely. Moustaches are a symbol of virility. That's why we grow them.
If a man doesn't have a moustache, his face looks like a woman's.
Traditionally, men throughout South Asia have sported moustaches, and everyone has a favorite style.
Most people like sharp moustaches that are flexible and move freely. Some like heavy ones or neatly trimmed ones.